Okay, I'm here at StratCom, and I got my buddy here, Rocky. Rocky is chewing a bully stick, and in this video, I'm going to go over what I like to call passive training. Now, Rocky had a tough start to life. I've spent some time working with him just to get him comfortable feeling this close. He's laying down, he's near me. I haven't tried to touch him yet. We're about an hour in the session. Most people try to pet a dog and show him that I'm a good person. Well, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're going to amplify. But so you pet a fearful dog, you'll make it more fearful. But also, in Rocky's case, I think he's very content not being touched by people he doesn't know. He spent the first 4 years of his life tethered outside, really neglectfully abusive situation. That's just a horrible way to start off. And so he is just very wary of people. So I'm going to talk in the roadmap to success, a whole bunch of other little tips and things that you can do to help him. But in this video, I want to talk about how we can basically use positive reinforcement to help boost his self-esteem and confidence. And I call it passive training. So anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're specifically amplifying, which is, like I said, don't pet your dog when it's nervous or aggressive or anxious or fearful. However, if your dog does things you want and you pet them when they do it, that's a great way to teach them and to motivate them and reward them. Most people actually train their dogs to misbehave. For dogs, good attention and bad attention, pretty much the same thing. And so if Rocky comes up to a human and we don't do anything, he sits down in front of us, we don't do anything. He lays down in front of us, we don't do anything. But as soon as he starts peeing on the carpet, we correct or we object. If he starts to jump up or bark or chew on the furniture or whatever it is, a lot of times dogs learn to offer the unwanted behaviors because that's the fastest way to get our attention. If the dog's goal is to get your attention, I'm going to do whatever it is that works. So with passive training, what I suggest people do is wait for the dog to voluntarily offer you a behavior that you like. So every time Rocky comes to you, pet him under his chin or offer him a treat and say the word come. Now for him, the guardian's a little bit nervous about when to pet, or not nervous, but she doesn't want to do the wrong thing, which is great. Most people don't realize they pet a fearful dog, try to placate it, and you'll make it more fearful. But see, since she does like treats might be a great motivator. So what you might want to do is get something like this. There's a little treat pouch. It's got a little clip so I can attach it to my belt. It's got a little container that I can open up, and it's got a wire so it stays open like that. But if I want, I can touch and it shuts, and I don't lose any treats. So this way, if you have it with you in the house all the time, it's very cool. If he does something you want, I gave him a drop command. I will when he does this. So you see he's got a bully stick in his mouth. I want to associate the word drop. So what I'm doing, if I say drop, 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 he's not dropping it. And so I'm saying it out of context, which is confusing for the dog. So he sees there's a treat there. And eventually, hopefully, he will drop this and lick up the treat. So you see him sniffing, he's going to try to do it both. And as soon as he drops it, most of us pick up the item. And that causes the dog to say, well, I'm not going to drop it because you want it. There we go. Oh. Well, normally they drop it and lick up the treat. There. Drop. That's a perfect example of passive training. Now, I offered the treat, which is a little bit of a motivator, but I didn't tell him to drop. I didn't keep on wiggling it here. It was just there waiting for him. He made the decision about a minute later to drop, and when he did, and the treat goes into his mouth, I said the word drop. And then he got his original stuff back. So anytime you give a treat, you want to make sure you give the treat after, or when you give the treat, they should hear the command word after the treat goes in their mouth. So in this situation, I made the treat available, and when he decided to do it on his own, when he was ready, I just marked it by saying the word drop, and then he went back to chewing his bully stick. So this is how you teach a dog to drop, which is just an offshoot of this video, but if he has any item in his mouth that he's allowed to have, you just go touch his nose and hold the treat here and wait. And as soon as he drops, pop in his mouth and then walk away. So he's like, so if I got some good stuff and you ask me to drop, I drop it, you give me something better than I have and I get my original stuff back, that's a pretty good deal. And so drop is not the main problem that we had here, but it's a nice thing for him to learn. The more skills that he learns, the more confident he's going to be. Just like us, if we pass the bar exam, we feel better about ourselves. We pass our medical boards, we graduate, basic training or whatever it is. When we accomplish milestones, we have that boost of self-esteem and confidence. We have a very insecure dog, and so a great way to boost his self-esteem is to teach him new tricks and commands. But since he's so skittish, the guardian hasn't really done a lot. I think she probably can try doing some of those things with him, but the easiest way to train a dog is what I call passive training. So every time he comes to you, pet him or give him a treat, probably in his case, and say the word come, and only the word come. Not, oh, what a smart dog, Rocky, you came. The more words we use, the harder it is for them to understand. So we want to say just the word. So he comes to me, I'm going to pet it, give him a treat, and say, come. When he sits on his own, for no reason whatsoever of mine, I'm going to give him a treat and say, say sit. When he lays down, give him a treat. I like to say crash. We're in an Air Force base, maybe we say chill instead. But we come up, and for you guys, I like you guys to come up with funny command words for the new commands for him. Dogs are the only animal on the planet that can read human facial expression. So if you say chill and your dog lays down, everybody else thinks that's pretty funny, and they laugh. That helps motivate the dog to want to do those things. Also, it helps brighten the mood. So maybe we, since we have an admiral in his life, maybe we call it, I don't know what they call it when they submerge, dive, or something like that. Come up with some terms that will make you guys and the people who are going to be here laugh and chuckle. That brightens the mood and removes that tension. And the dog's like, hey, this group is pretty nice and relaxed. And we can boost his self-esteem by helping him do things that we want. So every time he comes to you, make sure you give him a treat and say, come. Or whatever the word is you want to use. I have one of my clients that actually is Ed Offit, and he says that attention. Attention means run to your human. That's funny, but I would probably just say come, because I want, if he gets escape, anybody else say come and he comes to them. But every time he sits, pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say dive or whatever it is. When he eats his food, I have 4 dogs. I say grub, chow, feast, and lasagna. Each dog has its own unique word to eat. The way I assigned it is through passive training. For 3 months, every time my dog took his bite of food, I said the word lasagna. When he hears lasagna, there's food in his mouth. The context to him, lasagna means I eat. The other 3 dogs hear lasagna, there's no food in their mouth. It doesn't mean the same thing to them. So when he drinks water, come up with a word and just call it agua. Or, I have some people call it cocktails or happy hour or whatever you want to say. Every time he voluntarily drinks water, say it. Every time he sits, say sit. Every time he comes, pet him, give him the treat and say come. Every time he lays down, chill. And if he does have toys or things that he does play with, we haven't talked about that, but if he does, name each individual item. Maybe there's a little elephant. When he brings it to you, maybe you call it Trump. He has a little zebra, you call it Stripey. So come up with these nicknames, and it makes it easy for the dog. Oh, you want a little crack? That's the first time he's taken a treat from me. That's a good indication that he feels comfortable. But what I didn't do is I didn't try to pet him. I didn't try to invade his personal space. I was sitting up here. I gradually transitioned down here. But through my actions of not petting him, I'm earning trust with him. And I'm also throwing a cornucopia of these really good freeze-dried chicken and beef treats on the floor. That doesn't hurt. So passive training is the easiest way to train your dog. Now, once you can actually say sit or whatever it is, and he does it on command, then you want to start asking him to do that. Now I'm going to tell you the offshoot of that, which is what I call petting with a purpose. So passive training is where we want to start for him because it's very slow and he gets to call the shots. But once he knows how to sit on command, the way you check that out is if you turn away from the dog and say sit, and then you look and the dog sat down, then you know he has it. Most dogs actually learn to a gesture first. So once he can sit on command, somebody likes this crack. Let's see if he'll lean over to get this one. Nope, I'm going to keep on talking. We'll see if he'll come, muster up some courage. If I suddenly stop talking, the situation changes a little bit. That's called avoidance. So you saw he kind of turned away from me, and that's his way of saying, I'm not engaging with you. I don't want to lean any further or move any further because I don't think he would like that. So we'll see if we can get him to scooch over himself a little bit. So what I'm trying to do is put these kind of strategically so that he has to get a little bit closer to me each time. So instead of me reaching towards him, he's coming towards me. So petting with a purpose is basically if the dog comes up and nudges you or asks for attention, he's giving you an order essentially. Now he's doing it in a cute way, but he is still telling you what to do. So if he tells me what to do and I do it, then that confuses him into thinking that he has more authority than I actually do, than he actually does. And then he might think he's responsible for me, and then when he tells me what to do and I don't listen to him, then that stresses him out. So for petting with a purpose, what we do is if you want to pet him, once we get to that point where he knows these commands, you tell him to sit first. When he sits, whenever possible, try to pet him under his chin. When a dog feels good about itself, its nose is parallel to the ground or tilted upward. Insecure dogs look down. Reaching over a dog's head creates a cowering, lowering of the nose position. Since he already has that by nature, I'd like you to just avoid reaching over his head at all. Scratch him on his chin. You can still scratch his butt or his side too, but if you are always going over the head, and that can facilitate that, I don't feel good about myself. So when he comes over and you want to pet him, you tell him to sit. If he sits within 3 seconds of you saying it the first time, reach under his chin and pet him and say the word sit, or you can give him a treat. Now, if you're giving him a treat, make sure you give him the treat kind of in this sort of fashion. So he's got to have his nose up to take it. So it's kind of a fake it till you make it sort of thing. And don't say good sit, just say sit. After a while, what will happen is he'll come start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. That means he's adopting a follower's mindset. Instead of telling you what to do, he's now asking and paying for it. Not only that, but he's starting to shift and see you as the leader. Now, I have a lot of people that end up petting their dog without a purpose. And I had a woman ask me, what if I just want to pet the dog? I would still ask you to pet the dog with a purpose so that it feels like it's earning its attention. Now, if you get in the habit of petting with a purpose and passive training, every time you pet your dog or give it a treat, you're basically accomplishing three things. First of all, you're teaching the dog, look, I'm the leader, not you. And not doing it through a domination sort of way, but through our actions. There you go. Number two, it boosts the dog's self-esteem. Although he likes being petted, and the guardian actually doesn't do a lot because she's worried about amplifying, which is good, prudent. But if just people just give me compliments all day long and they're kissing my butt, that inflates my ego. But if somebody comes up and compliments me on something I did to help someone, and I know that it's genuine, that makes me feel better about myself. It boosts my self-esteem and increases my confidence. Same thing for him. If he feels like he's earning these affections as opposed to being given them out of feeling sorry for him, that boosts his self-esteem. It also helps him practice these behaviors. He could probably sit great. Well, he can't. But once he gets to the point where he can sit great in the house, that's easy. But then you go out and there's an Air Force jet flying overhead. That's a big, scary sound. It would be hard for him to sit in that situation. But the more we practice things, the more we can do them in more difficult situations. So the more we help him earn these affections through these desirable actions and behaviors of sitting, coming, laying down, then he's going to start offering those and feel good about doing those. If that makes sense. All right. Well, this is the back of Rocky. Can you take one more? No, he's like, I don't know if I want that one yet. All right, let's try one more. Let's put a little nose in the air. And that reminds me, I wanted to say one other thing. So when you go to pet him, a lot of dogs kind of lower their head down. So this is there's a way of the dogs learning that's called operant conditioning. It's actually from B.F. Skinner, if you've ever studied that. And so basically, operant conditioning is basically the dog's behavior is going to influence me. So the dog comes and jumps up on me. What I do is I cross my arms like this, and I look up at the ceiling, and I freeze. I become boring. I want the dog to know that jumping up on me, the dog's like, hey, I'm all excited, let's play. No, that makes me the opposite of play. And as soon as it jumps down, I might pet it and say sit. So the dog jumps up on me, it stops me from petting. It sits down, it does something I want, then I immediately pet it. So this way is a great way to help the dog learn on its own as opposed to us micromanaging them. So if I reach to pet him and he ducks his head down, or you start petting him and he lowers his head, stop. And when he raises his head, go back to petting him. So you'll do kind of, if this is the dog's head, you reach and you stop. And why'd you stop? And you reach and after a while, he'll stay there. And then you eventually kind of get him where you have his nose in the air when you're petting him and he feels good about that. Now, this is a very subtle little thing, but just so try to catch yourself. Anytime you're engaging with him and he lowers his head, stop petting him. Don't say no. Just through our actions to saying, when you do that, that causes me to stop petting you. So eventually he'll keep that nose up in the air, and we're almost kind of, without him realizing it, helping him achieve a body mechanic that makes him feel good about himself. All right, I'm going to get him to turn and look at the camera so they see how handsome he is. Well, that is Rocky, and this is what I call passive training, as well as petting with a purpose, and a little bonus of how to stop petting when your dog dips its head to help it feel more confident.